Warning, everybody, this video contains massive spoilers about Dune Part 2, so, just keep that in mind. Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video on my channel. Now I know, it's been a while again since my last video, and yeah, I am actually gonna start trying to get a lot more consistent with my videos, and I also happen to just have made a gaming channel called Mind Plays, or MXND Plays, which is apparently how people pronounce it. Anyway, I post gaming content on there. Also gonna try and be consistent with it. But today we are talking about Dune. Dune Part 2, to be more specific. Now, as someone who has heard of the 1984 movie and also has read the first 15 pages of the book, I can confidently say that I'm a die-hard Dune fan. Obviously, I was joking. May have triggered a lot of people there. Hopefully not. But I have seen the 2021 version, and I really liked it. If you've seen some of my shorts, I actually talked about it, how it was one of my favorite movies of the 2020s. And I was actually really hyped for this movie, since we've been getting such masterpieces as Aquaman 2 and Madam Web lately, So I was really pumped, and I was not disappointed. If you still can, please do yourself a favor, and if you want to watch this movie, go and watch it in a theater. It's 100% worth it. It's something you have to watch on the big screen. So let's talk about the positives first. We're gonna keep this tradition here. Pretty much every aspect of this movie was really great, so it belongs in the positives. First, the story. Now, again, I have not read the book. I haven't seen the old movies. I don't really know how it's supposed to be, but what I do know is that this story is very intriguing, and I feel like it developed a lot more in this movie than the previous one because that was kind of slower. A lot of people complained about that actually. I'm gonna talk about this in a second, but this one showed us a lot more detail and went into kind of the behind the scenes stuff and showed us what is really going on with all these different people that have such immense power, by the way, that it's incredible, and how they rule different planets and kind of do everything from the shadows so that you don't notice. So yeah, story-wise, incredible, and it also introduced us to a bunch of new characters, and I really liked them, okay? Very cool characters. About them in a second, but let's talk about who I felt like were the three main characters and also the three best in this movie. So first let's talk about Jessica, who's Paul's mother. Now, she had to kind of become the reverend mother of these Fremens that they were with. So she drank that potion that they gained from that poor little sandworm. And obviously she went through a bunch of pain, and it also changed her personality drastically, in my opinion. And she's kind of like obsessed with this prophecy about Paul, and that narrative kind of separated the Fremens for a while, but everyone is convinced by now, except Chani, who's also very interesting because in the first movie she didn't really do many things other than just, peeking around the corner every once in a while. But now there's actually a love thing going on with Paul, which was actually pretty interesting. I didn't mind it at all. I feel like those two actors have pretty good chemistry on the screen, so it was not cringe, it was not terrible, with the dialogues and all that. And it's really interesting to see how Chani pretty much remains the only person who's against this Messiah thing, this chosen one prophecy or whatever. And you can see how at first Paul thinks the same thing. They agree on this. They're like, yeah, I shouldn't take the role of this leader because that is gonna cause a lot of terrible things. But he sees some other stuff. He also drinks that potion eventually and discovers a lot of disturbing news about his family and whatnot. So his personality changes a lot as well. I think he actually changes the most. And at the end of the movie, he actually becomes this kind of godlike figure to the Fremens. So yeah, these were really interesting. And then we have the new ones. And I particularly liked this, what's his name? Rotha. Yeah, Fade Rotha. And it's not because I could resonate with him due to our similar tendencies, which we do not have. It was because I feel like it was a good performance from the actor, Austin Butler. And it's also an interesting character. It's kind of like the Joker with me. It's like I kind of like these characters that are a little bit borderline insane or even like flat out insane and have these kind of really weirdly charismatic scenes. And he's amazing, I feel like. He's charismatic, he's unpredictable, he's strong. It's everything. And I was actually really bummed out when I saw that they did kill him off. But I do have to say that it was a pretty badass fight scene with Paul. And let's talk about fights. Now, when you watch a movie like this, it's a sci-fi movie. And when you think of sci-fi, even though a lot of people say it's not a sci-fi, Star Wars comes to your mind. And when I was watching this movie, I just couldn't help but compare it to Star Wars. Certain scenes and certain memories just pop into my head about Star Wars, and I'm like, you know, I can't help but compare them. And it's really interesting to see how, one thing is that there are no robots in this world because they banned them pretty much. And there aren't any space battles either. There's no huge gunships shooting at each other or anything like that. It's mostly people fighting on the ground with knives and like swords and, you know, occasionally shooting at each other or dropping a nuke or something. But there's a huge emphasis on the melee fight sequences, and I really like them. Some of the choreographies are amazing. Overall, the fight scenes are done in a really good way. And the visuals in general. Now this is mainly the reason why I mean, you don't have to, but I highly recommend you watch it in a theater because these visuals just hit different on a big screen. This film has such an extremely unique atmosphere to it. It's really amazing. And I particularly like this scene where Paul was trying to ride that big old sandworm, and you could really see the scale, you know, how big the sandworm is compared to like Paul and the dunes themselves. And you know, when he was running and jumping off onto the back or onto the body, I guess, of this sandworm, it was really realistic. I felt like it was really realistic, you know, there was sand everywhere. So yeah, stuff like that kind of made this movie really great in my eyes. And last but not least, let's talk a little bit about the music. This movie has an amazing score. Hans Zimmer again hits us with a masterpiece. It's kind of just the usual at this point, but you know, it adds a whole lot to the vibe. Like, you can see a couple of videos on YouTube actually about this. It's like how much music changes a certain scene, and it's crazy. Like, it's really important, trust me. And now let's talk about flaws. You know, let's talk about flaws a little. Now, I just want to get one thing out of the way, and I would take the opportunity and pass the honor of explaining this flaw to Mr. I have read the book. Thank you very much. Now, as we all know, towards the end of this film, there are certain events that highly differ from what happened in the book, and I happen to find that absolutely outrageous. It's unexplainably ridiculous. I'm sorry, I can't listen to this shit. This could be a hot take here, but I feel like the people who complain about the differences between the book and the movie only want to brag about the fact that they read the book. I said it. Like, I feel like when you adapt a book, right, it's an adaptation, the movie is an adaptation of the book, it's inevitable, and it's also sometimes necessary, that's why it's inevitable, to change up the events slightly, or maybe not that slightly, maybe significantly. Look at Harry Potter, look at Lord of the Rings, anything. It's like, you can't have the exact same thing in the movie as you did in the book. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about some actual flaws. Now again, these aren't too significant, in my opinion, but I just want to point out that this movie is not flawless after all. And that, in my opinion, was that some of the characters, some of the main or like major characters, were killed off in a way that was maybe a little bit rushed. And I'm talking about the Baron, Vladimir, or Robin, the other Harkonnen guy, and maybe even Feyd-Rautha. That fight was good. It's just that it was his first movie and he died. But it was not rushed after all. And I really did hate the character of Robin. But actually, I'm not even gonna lie to you, in this movie I kind of started feeling bad for him. But still, I mean, when he gets killed, it's like, it's satisfying because you're like, yes, finally. But it was just a little bit too easy, in my opinion. He just went out like, blah. You know, he didn't even really fight back. Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe it was done on purpose. I don't know. And then the Baron, I mean, he's really weak when it comes to a 1v1 because he's really like fat and also is kept alive by some floating device. But again, the way he goes is kind of just sad. It's like, but yeah, that's it. Overall, one of the best experiences I've ever had in a cinema, okay? Some of those great movies that came out relatively long time ago, I didn't get to see them in a theater, you know? So for me, this was a really cool experience. Now, if we want to talk numbers, I'm gonna give this like a 9.4 out of 10 if we do stuff like that. Let's just say that Sci-fi doesn't really get much better than this. And yeah, that's about it for today's video, actually. You are not gonna believe how many attempts it took me to actually film this, so if you're seeing this, it's like I'm kind of just done with this shit. But that also means that it finally worked out. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time now, so I'm gonna try and post every week, every other week maybe. Every week is just a little bit too frequent, so let's just say every other week. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like on it. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that yet. Also, just a couple of days ago, I was looking at these analytics on YouTube, and I discovered some disturbing news. It was like, I'm gonna put the number here in the whole statistic, but it was like 90% of the people who watch my videos aren't subscribed. What are you doing? It's literally free. Like, bro, I'm just kidding. Obviously, you don't have to subscribe if you don't want to. So I know you're already sitting there saying, womp womp, so I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna see you in the next video, and peace out.